Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons, where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. All your support means the world to us. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, check out the link in the description. And a big thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion for 10% off all of your ttrpg needs. Definitely check them out. The link is in the description, and use the promo code SINISTER. We're doing a big push to hit 2,000 by the end of the year. We can't do that without your support, so definitely, if you enjoy the video, hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, we're going to jump into this week's video. We're talking about Duregar. The Duregar come to us from the Sword Coast Adventures. They are a unique kind of circumstance for the dwarf, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. But we're going to cover the Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse because it eliminates the only negative thing that the Duregar had, which was sunlight sensitivity. So we're going to cover that one as far as going through the stats and what the races actually has. The Duregar themselves are dwarvish. They have this cool, interesting history because of how deep they delved into the world. Most of the mountain dwarves and the hill dwarves, those dwarves kind of stay as close to the surface as possible while still diving in to go search for gold and mining and these intricate caverns that you see them build. But the Duregar went deeper. They went deeper and deeper into the underdark, and at one point dug so far they got the attention of the Illithid. Now the Illithid, those are the mind flayers, those are the tentacle monsters that you've seen. They are nasty. When they saw the dwarves that were down there, they infected them with their psionic abilities and consumed them and caused them to be this kind of fractured shell of what they are now. They are very, very crazy. And they live and they've been slaved for so long, and their mentality has been broken, and the entire history of just getting from that point to a point where they can only sustain their own mental competence is a long thing that caused them a lot of great turmoil to do. So Duregar have had a very harsh, horrible life their entire time, and still take residence in the Underdark, where they're surrounded by drow and the Illithids and a whole plethora of dangerous circumstances. They have a very hard life, and they are very rugged and very, very scary. They are not the happiest thing a dwarf would ever want to see one of their own people turned into. They're a lot like a monster that was made against its will and now has to force its way to kind of survive. It's a very cool story. Definitely look deeper into the lore. It's absolutely worth it. The Duregar, they are a medium species. They have the normal +2 to +1 to whatever you want, or 3 different +1s. That's been kind of the standard for Monsters of the Multiverse. You do have dark vision up to 120 feet, so you have that underdark kind of dark vision like Drow have. And your speed is 30 feet, which is more than a normal dwarf gets, which is something definitely you want to look into and make sure you're on top of, because old dwarves normally get 25. You are walking at a normal pace because that Duregar hard life makes you mobile. Dwarven resilience. You have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the poison condition on yourself. You also have resistance to poison damage. This is a pretty strong staple across all of the dwarves. They do involve themselves with the environment, with being underground, with being digging through mountains. There's a lot of poisonous things like gases and plant life and things like that they encounter. So regularly living there has given that great resilience. It works out. It's always a benefit to have a resistance, and poison actually tends to be pretty common. Psionic Fortitude. You have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charmed or stunned condition on yourself. This is a unique circumstance derived from their lore. Because of their brains being constantly bombarded by the Illithid psionic abilities, they have grown to be resistant to it from prolonged exposure, from constantly fighting against it. And again, this comes back to their lore of having to forcibly being enslaved by them for generations upon generations upon generations until they finally revolted and were able to free themselves. That's not something that came easy to them, and they are still suffering from that crippling pain of the Illithids inflicted on them mentally. It's very, very dynamically profound in their lives and their minds. They're very aware of it. It's not something that they really want to be dealing with or very trustworthy of anyone who uses that kind of thing. So it's definitely like a trigger for them. Duregar magic. Starting at 3rd level, you can cast the Enlarge Reduce spell with this trait without requiring a material component. Starting at 5th level, you can also cast the Invisibility spell with it without requiring a material component. Once you cast either of these spells with this trait, you can't cast that spell with it again until you finish a long rest. You can also cast these spells using spell slots you have for the appropriate level. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability for these spells, and you choose when you select this race. The interesting thing is the type of magic that Duregars get. Enlarge Reduce is great. You want to buff yourself, you want to debuff the enemy, you have a lot of great opportunities there. I imagine most of the time people pick Enlarge because it gives you a little bit of an offensive bonus. Invisibility is incredibly useful in all facets of the game, in adventuring, in combat, sneaking around. A lot of great opportunities to use that spell. You'll see that being cast constantly, almost regularly in your game normally. Being able to cast it for free is awesome. And that, again, I think really comes from their connection to where they had to live. Being able to go and be invisible in the Underdark is almost a guaranteed way to survive in the Underdark. And that's a great circumstance. The difference is they don't actually get a cantrip, which most species that do get inherent magic always start with a cantrip and then progress to a spell and then another spell. But with the 2 spells that they get, I think that's a pretty strong use. I think their magic is actually very, very useful. And I think it complements a lot of different builds that you can do. And a lot of different classes really work well with it. Our final thoughts. The Duregar, being part of that whole dwarven history world, is a fantastic species. All the dwarves are incredible. They are strong. They're incredibly dynamic. They're awesome as just a lore base and who they are. Their personalities are great. They're always really tend to be on the good side and lawful. They have this great history that you can jump into, and the Duregar give you this darkened part of the world that's a perfect reflection of how everything could have been. Their ambitions took them to a place that they definitely should never have gone to, and because of that they suffered for generations. And they can look back at their other dwarven cousins and be like, well, why didn't you save us? Why didn't you come for us when we went missing? And you can create that great animosity between them. There's a lot of opportunity to build a great character from it. You can dive into different facets of where they are, who they want to be, or where they are in a transition from just overcoming the world and getting to see that there are better things in the world. Also, you're a little bit stronger than a lot of people would imagine a dwarf to be. You're faster than a dwarf. You have inherent magic. There's an argument to state that you earn your right to be in a better position than some of the other ones are. And that can be really great to roleplay out, to have this interesting dichotomy of when you meet other dwarves, how you react. Because you are all so close, and dwarves always really, they have a great history of being heroes and being great champions, and they let you go. And that's a great thing to pull together, you know, and to have to adapt to. And it creates a lot of great social interactions and role-playing opportunities between them. That being said, we're going to bring this video to a close. Thank you so much if you made it this far. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Again, we're going to try and push for 2,000. We want to get there, and we will not get there without your help. If you've made it this far, definitely hit a like as well. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description. Shout out to our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code Sinister. Get 10% off all your purchases. And thank you so much for giving a spooky kid a chance.